Welcome back, everyone, to another wonderful episode of the Qualified Podcast. With me today, I have Karina Cohen, and Karina's going to be talking about her cleaning service, CR Maids. Karina, thank you so much for joining me and taking the time out of your busy, busy day to sit down and share all the wonderful things about you and your business.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Of course. So let's just get into, some general background stuff. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? Are you still is the business where you grew up?
Well, no, actually, I was born in Ukraine, raised in New Jersey,
Okay.
and currently are in Colorado. Most of my life, I actually end up living back east in around New York, New Jersey area. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a background.
Okay. So what you said you were born in Ukraine. How old were you when you came to the US?
I was 11.
Okay.
Yeah, so I lived here my whole life, pretty much. I consider US my home. I don't really ever go back. So it's interesting with all of the recent developments happening. It's interesting to have a background being a Ukrainian, seeing how many Ukrainian people came because of the war in Russia and Ukraine, but still considering that part of it is my heritage, but my home really is in the US.
Yeah, it's tough to see everything that's going on overseas, and like you said, it's still a part of you. You've been here your whole life, but a piece of you will always be from there. Do you have any family and friends back there still?
I do. My dad goes back and forth. He lives here and goes back in Ukraine and lives there too. He has a business over there, and I have a ton of friends who currently are in Ukraine. So it's very much very, very dear to me. And a lot of our providers are actually Ukrainians. So we're very much present in the current events and what's happening back in the Ukraine.
I mean, you being a business owner, you have flexibility and, that option if you ever needed to go with your dad wherever, whether it be Ukraine or somewhere else. This service business, this opportunity of being a business owner allows you that freedom to kind of work wherever,
Yeah,
right?
that's actually probably one of the most beautiful things about being a service related business owner is that you truly have the freedom to operate from wherever you can or you want or you're able to, right? So for me, actually, we travel a lot and I homeschool my child. So it's important for me to be able to be mobile and go as we are learning in different places and different countries. And I smile because I know that it's very hard to work in Asia because it's completely different than our time zone versus Europe works out really nicely because you get the whole day there and then you can work the whole night. You don't get to sleep very much, but you can do both if you ever needed to. So, but to come back to your previous statement, it works itself out nicely to be able to have the freedom to move around and be mobile, especially in today's day and age.
Definitely. You homeschool your child. How is that with running a business? Must be something incredibly challenging. And how old is your child?
My daughter is 11 going on 16. Yeah, she's absolutely amazing and a blessing. Actually, she used to go to traditional school until about 2 years ago, where we realized that our current educational system is just not where it does not align and does not meet with the needs that we have for our child. Rather than my daughter improving and learning the skills that she would need to be successful in today's world, I realized she's not. Well, what would happen is she would come home and I had all day of work and she had all day of school. And then I would sit down and like try to teach her math. But she's tired and I'm tired. So it was just like lots of yelling and not very productive. So then, finally I just like pulled the plug and I was like, let's just try it. Let's just see how it goes. It was phenomenal. Like the growth for me and for her actually was incredible because I have no patience. I'm terribly impatient. So I'm very lucky to have an amazing team of people who have the skill sets that I do not possess. I hire to have people who can complement skills versus just kind of repeat what I have. Otherwise, it would be a very, very scary situation, probably.
True.
But so I actually was able to step back and be more involved in doing work. And I was really afraid that I would have really no time to do any of my work, right? So we kind of figured out that in order for this to work, she has to learn to be independent and actually do the work, or she's going back to the regular kids' school. And she doesn't want to go back. So it's works out like,
Really?
no, she definitely does not want to go back. She loves it.
Wow, that was my next question. How is she dealing and coping with, being homeschooled? And would that be something, her going back, like for high school? Would she be looking forward
Yeah,
to?
no, she's never going back to traditional school ever. That's kind of unless she's like, "Hey, I wanna be a doctor," which I cannot foresee. We're definitely raising a future CEO. But she's got other interests, like she at one point said she wanted to be a journalist for F1 car racing.
Wow.
Yeah, specifically for F1, not just a journalist, not for anybody else. It's like F1 or nothing, right? So
Okay.
really very, very, very particular. And then she's like, you know what, being attorney is kind of cool too. So maybe I'll want to do that. But she's really sort of she's made to be the CEO. So she manages my calendar completely. She helps me with all of the hiring. She sits in all of the interviews. She helps troubleshoot any kind of client issues that might come up.
Wow.
So all of the things she actually helps me with, which is fantastic because, she's learning the skills that I didn't learn until I was, I don't know, 15, 16, 17. I also learned them young because I was also kind of on a path of being an entrepreneur. We knew that since I was 4. Like it was just natural. And then we have my husband who has, we call it a real job, right? Where he has to get up and go to the office and work for somebody else and,
Sure.
account for his time. He can't just, take 3 months off and gallop around the world and, work on different time schedules. He has to go to work. So she sees kind of the two sides, mom who is like, I'm always on, right? But I call them never really working because I love what I do. So it never actually feels like I'm working. And my husband, who just like this super high stress job, but gets home at like 6 o'clock and it's no longer his problem, really, right? Even though he's in charge, it's not really his problem anymore. And he kind of can leave it a bit. And then she can decide like, hey, which direction do I want to go to? And to circle back, she really loves it. I think she flourished tremendously. She's super social, my kiddo, but at the same time could sit there for 12 hours and just read. If just let her be, she could just sit there and just like read mystery books. And, she can read a Harry Potter in one day. I'm just like, okay, it took me like, I don't know, a month, but you got it. You go, girl. You can do
Yeah.
it in a day. You do you. So, yeah. And we follow a classical education program that we have here, and she goes and meets with other kids twice a week and sort of so she does have that socialization, does a lot of activities, you know.
And that's a big thing for kids that are homeschooled. A lot of people would say, where's the socialization aspect? They're going to grow up to be an adult who doesn't have.
You're raising a serial killer in the future.
Sure, exactly. But if you put them in activities, whether it's sports or musical instruments or something like that, it doesn't matter because they're flourishing either way and having that interaction with people outside. However, if it was the flip side, if it was just homeschooled and didn't leave the house, well, maybe it would be a little bit different. But
It's interesting. All kids are different, of course. They're all
yeah,
wired different. They have different needs. And I can only speak for my kid. But what I noticed that the kids in school, like 70% of the time, they're not actually learning or socializing. They're actually just learning to follow a specific set of directions. Do this, line up, go here, do that, don't do that, right? Like it's very much linear, right? But our world isn't that way. And it's hard. Part of my job before I opened this company was I worked for a very large financial organization, and my job was to get people to think outside the box, literally. I mean, it had other title, but in reality, what the senior executives want is for people to think, right? To be able to make decisions and think and brainstorm and be creative so that the more they can utilize those skills, the better essentially we would do as a whole as a company in terms of profitability, et cetera, et cetera. It was really hard to get adults to think, right? It's like this is what I need to do. This is my job. I was shown that was easy for them. But to be like, well, if you didn't have this piece of paper, like, how would you do it? That was very, very challenging. And part of the reason it's very challenging is because we were conditioned as humans since early age just to follow directions. Like, just like, you can do this, you can't do this, right? I am on the outlier of that. I can never read or follow directions, which is partially the problem that I have, right? So naturally for me that's difficult to see that, my kid comes home from school and is crying every day and I'm like, "Why are you crying?" And it's like, "Well, I had all these ideas and my teacher just told me to sit down and be quiet." And, for like 6 hours, like, I can't sit down and be quiet. Like I have to express myself. So that was that. And now we're here and we're doing quite well.
That's honestly a conversation my wife and I have all the time is do we go that route because with homeschooling? Because we also think that, sending your kid to a traditional school, 30 kids in one classroom to one teacher, how much are they really learning when the one teacher has to keep an eye on 30 students? It's
How
very
old is your
easy.
kiddo?
She's young. She's 11 months. So
That's perfect.
we still have a ways to figure out, but it comes into question like, do we do private school? Do we do Montessori? Do we do homeschool? And
Yeah.
I saw an interesting statistic saying that most of the CEOs and the C suite employees of the biggest companies in the world either went Montessori or were homeschooled.
Yeah, we started at Montessori. So she did like pre-K through, since she was 2, she was a Montessori until through the end of 4th grade.
Okay.
Really good for social emotional learning, Montessori is. I don't think it's very good for academics, right? So you have to do like some sort of a combo or do a lower L for Montessori, which is kind of what we did. And then when they go to upper L, which is 4th, like after 3rd grade, they go to what they call upper L in Montessori. Then I would move them to a different model that works. At that point, you'll know what works for your kiddo and you could kind of see. But 30 kids, 2 teachers, right? So you have a teacher and a teacher assistant usually, right, for the class. And if you think about statistically, you're going to have about 80% of kids who are average, right? And then you're going to have 10% of kids that are even less. I would say maybe, let's just say 50% of kids are average, 30% of kids are below average, and then the remainder would be your exceptional children or even less, right? Because the pool of the kiddos are average or below average, it's much easier for the teachers to bring the bar down and bring the rest of them up, right? Just in effort, right? Like putting effort in has nothing to do with the teacher being good or bad or kids being smart or capable or not capable. It's just how it is, like resource, ability, time, right? And that's kind of what tends to happen. If you're super lucky and your teacher could see that your child is excelling in this or is falling behind in that, they could step in. But the majority just don't have those kinds of resources. So you have to as a parent.
And when you have one parent or two parents that both work, like you said, the real jobs, the 9 to 5s where you go into an office, when you come home, you're exhausted.
And you
Even
don't
if,
even know, like, you don't
yeah,
even know that your kid is not being taught. I had no idea. You know how I found out? Like, we had COVID, right? We all lived through COVID. So my daughter was in kindergarten COVID. So I taught her. I got all of the Montessori materials. I taught her division. She was in kindergarten. We learned division. And now she's in 5th grade and she's learning the same division. And I'm like, how the heck did this happen? Like, I taught you this when you were like 6. How is it that you're 10 and you still do not know this? Like, what's happening? And then you dig in and you realize, my goodness, she was actually not taught between this period and that period. Yeah, they're given worksheets, but she's not taught. It's not the same. Like, you can't just magically wake up one morning and know math. It doesn't happen now. Somebody has to teach it to you. So yeah, it's interesting. It's probably honestly the most rewarding and challenging thing that I've done since opening CR Maids. And my only regret is I didn't do it sooner. I wish I did it sooner. I used to look at people who homeschool their kids, and in Colorado, a lot of people homeschool their kids. And I was like, what's wrong with you? Why would you do that to yourself? Like, honestly, too, I remember cleaning homes and this woman had 3 of her children homeschooled. And like, my thought is like, they probably they need resources that the schools cannot give them. Like, right. Like, is there, like, why would anybody in their right mind would ever do that to themselves? That's so much stress. Right. But I realized I was completely wrong, super judgmental and completely wrong. And I'm first to admit it, right? Like that was not, it's awesome.
You don't know until you know for yourself, right?
Exactly.
And you don't
Exactly.
know what you don't know.
And you can
So,
always go back. Like that's the also beauty of American educational systems. Like you could just change your mind and go back. So you know what? My kid's going back to public school. That's it. Or private school if you're fortunate enough to afford it, a charter school or private school or other options that you have. But yeah, it's interesting.
so your whole life, you knew from a young age that you were an entrepreneur. Did you, through the years, kind of change your mind like your daughter with, the journalism, lawyer? Did you have like set businesses that you, as a kid, wanted to start? I don't think cleaning business owner was one of
No,
them.
definitely not. Certainly not my first business, but definitely my favorite by far is the
Okay.
cleaning business. And I'll tell you how I got here. So for my first business transaction I was 4 years old. This was in Ukraine, and back then this is communist USSR, right? So lots of scarcity, huge lines to get your basic things like milk or bread, or forget about things like mayo was like a huge deficiency, or so, I mean, like things that we consider completely basic here, like sugar, and was like getting it was like a holiday. So my mother, I was very independent. I was 4. My mother sends me to go get potatoes, and it must have been like a block. It's like the potato store, the vegetable store was like at the end of the block from my apartment. So she gives me some money. She gives me the sack. Go get potatoes. So I go to the store and I'm gone for like an hour. So now naturally my mom's like, she's either kidnapped or she did something and got in trouble, because in Ukraine, people would just beat the crap out of you. There wasn't like, where are your parents? I'm calling social services. It was like you did something, like even if it's a complete stranger, right? So that's sort of the reality. I come back and I'm like, Mom, I need 100 rubles. And 100 rubles back then would be like, I don't know, probably an equivalent of 50, $60 here now. Like it's an absorbent amount of money for that time. She's like,
Right.
what did you do? Did you break the windows? And I'm like, no. I'm like, do you need mayo? She's like, yeah. I'm like, do you need this? She's like, yeah. Do you need sugar? I'm like, give me the money. So she gives me the money. Apparently, I went and got to know all of the people behind the counter where all of the actual goods were. You can't just buy them. You got to know somebody to buy them. So I bought stuff on the black market at the age of 4 years old. So that was my first entrepreneurial transaction. And of course, that wasn't even allowed. Like, I mean, the level of many illegalness back then, right? You were not allowed to have any kind of an entrepreneurship or privatization or buying goods off market or like none of that. So,
Right.
I probably could have just been arrested and shot as a 4-year-old doing the things that I was doing, but it never fazed me. I knew everybody in every store. I could always get what my family needed. And from that point on, I was like the designated provider, right? Like my parents would just give me money and things would just appear in our house, like just somehow managed. So from that point on, I knew that I was inclined to kind of failure is not an option mentality. And that's my motto that I go by with. It's like doesn't matter how bad, like we will sort it out, we will figure out, we will persevere. And the second piece, we were in Romania and I must have been 6, and we're selling these t-shirts, like white t-shirts. And I remember I'm selling them with my dad, and this lady comes up, she buys a t-shirt and she just grabs it. It's just like grabs it and like about to walk away. And I yank the shirt out of her, and you see the surprise on her face. She thinks I'm stealing the shirt. But in reality, I wanted to fold it nicely, put it in a bag, and present it to her beautifully. And like, I think that was the second aha identifying moment. Like, if you look back in my life where you're like, yeah, I meant to do this, right? I meant to serve people in this particular way. And you could see like her face change from like complete horror and fear to like this like warm and fuzzy, like, oh my gosh, this is so kind. Like, this is so nice and wonderful, right? And did I change my mind? I fought it for a longest time. I tried to, instead of just following my natural path, which was to lead people and to build things and to be an entrepreneur, I tried to mold myself to something I was not. I tried to climb the corporate ladder. I got really high. I was a CEO for another company. I worked on a VP level of a multi-billion dollar financial company. Like I did get somewhere. I was miserable. I was so unhappy. And the more money I made, the more handcuffed I felt. Like, are they going to fire me tomorrow? I know it's kind of negative self-talk, but like you always thought, like, when is the next layoffs coming? Where are, like, can I truly say that? Or it was always calculated in my brain. Like, could I be myself? Can I tell you that you're an idiot because you are an idiot? Like, honestly, I don't even know how you got this job, but you should not be here for sure. Right? Like, could I say things like that? No, I constantly had to be buttoned up, right? Like in the suit, prim and proper, making sure, watching everything that I say. And it was exhausting. I was exhausted all the time and stressed all the time. I remember driving to work and it was like super heavy in my neck, super heavy in my stomach, like one rock here, one rock here. It wasn't about the bills or the money. It was just like, it was 7 a.m. and I already dropped off my kid at the preschool daycare and I had to be in the office by 7:30, right, to beat all the rush hour traffic so that I could pick her up before the daycare is finished by 6 o'clock, right? So this constant routine of like, I was just like, why are we doing this? Like, this is not the life I should be living. And then the more I fought it, the more it resisted, right? Like I would get laid off or something else would happen. And then I would have to look for another job. So there are many times I've started different companies before and it was good. It was interesting, but it wasn't quite it. And when COVID happened, by accident, I actually started the cleaning company. I never intended to start a cleaning company. Initially, I started a consulting company in helping people with strategy, culture, like innovation, that type of consulting, like improving the just overall efficiency and morale in their organizations. I built out a website. I had all these case studies about like, the past work that we've done and things like that. And I got a Google phone number. You know those free phone numbers that you get from Google so you don't use your cell phone number. So I got one of those and I kept getting these like text messages. Now I know it's spam, right? Like looking back into it, like, but then back then I didn't know that. So I'm like, oh, I need a cleaning. It's this some other maids company. And I don't know, it's not them. Right. Um, so it kept happening and nobody was hiring consultants to do like culture work in the middle of COVID. It was more like survival mode, if anything. It's like nobody gives a crap if you're having a great experience at your workplace. You just like, let's just not fall apart and go out of business is super scary. So now like I wasn't getting anywhere, right? And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't working. And I kept getting these spam messages for cleaning. And I'm like, well, maybe this is manna from heaven. Like maybe this is the universe intervening and it's like saying, hey, you opened the wrong, not that you opened the business, that was a wrong thing. It's the fact that it's the wrong business. So why don't you try maybe cleaning? You know how to clean. I mean, I'm training. My mother made me scrub floors. I was literally a hands on knees. Like I know how to clean, right? Like it's in my nature. I actually did not know how to clean, but I thought I knew how to clean, but
Sure.
whole other conversation. So I'm like, yeah, and how hard could this be, right? Like, I don't know, let me figure it out. And a month later, CR Maids was there, right? Like I built out the website and luckily I got to meet a lot of really, really incredible people who helped me along the way. Just I asked questions and they answered and they were open and they were willing to pay it forward and teach me what they knew. And it was really fantastic. But in COVID, it was a nightmare starting a business, actually. But of course, my motto is we don't fail, we just keep going. So I cleaned, couldn't hire anyone. Nobody wanted to work because in Colorado, I don't know, you're in Chicago, I don't know what
Yeah.
state, Chicago, right? People just got stay home. I mean, like people didn't have to work. They get like $800 a week just to stay at home. It doesn't matter where they made $800 before or not. Somehow magically they got $800 a week now. So I would try to hire and people just wouldn't show up at all. Like it didn't matter what you would pay them. They just did not want to come because the minute they accept payment, then they don't get the free $800 and they probably would make as much working or maybe a little bit more, but they have to get out of bed and go somewhere and do something versus just stay home and do nothing. So that was an epic failure hiring during COVID. That was impossible. So I went and I cleaned 2 houses a day, 7 days a week for the first year and a half, every single day. And at one point, I was like, my husband was in between jobs. And I was like, oh, you need to come help me. Like, I can't do this on my own. You got to come help me. And like, he literally shows up to one house, like plugs in the vacuum, does like wipes down the bathroom. He's like, let's go have lunch. This house sucks. He's like, I'm done. He's like, you got to call him and ask for more money. He's like, how much they're paying you for this? Yeah, that's definitely not enough. Like, he was like, forget this. Let's go have lunch. We can't just leave and go have lunch. Like, we got to finish, you know?
Right.
He's like, yeah, I'm not doing this. That's like, no, it's not happening. I'm going to go home and look for a job. Like, not an entrepreneur.
And that's okay. But with that all that experience, a year and a half, 2 houses a day, 7 days a week, you learned everything about the customer relationship with the provider.
Yeah,
You learned
I learned a lot about it in 2 years for sure in the time that I did it. Like, I remember I would pick up the phone, try to, like, enter the information into the booking system, right? As I'm like, pause the vacuum to vacuum, right? Like, it was I didn't have a VA back then. I didn't have employees back then. It was just me, you know? Yes, I was your customer service person. I was your, "Hey, now I have to chase you for payments" person. I'd clean your house. I need to get leads. Like, it was all me, right? Which is completely not sustainable, right? It's very, very hard to do it. But on the flip side, there is no easy thing, you see people are like, oh yeah, start a cleaning company and make $1 bazillion in 5 minutes. And it's so easy. It's not easy, but you have to experience that. And if it's easy for you, you're blessed and more blessings to you, right? Like, that's amazing. But my journey was not that way. It was definitely not an easy route. But now I can look back and, like, somebody calls me and like, hey, I need 3 hours to clean the refrigerator. Like, I would question, do you really need 3 hours? Like, I mean, maybe that's the refrigerator from like Freddy Krueger and like it's like,
yeah,
you know, uh, you might as well buy yourself a new one. However, most of the time you probably just are not using the right tools, right? If you need 3 hours to clean the refrigerator. But you wouldn't know that unless you actually done it before, or you've seen really, really challenging homes versus homes that are not super challenging, or challenging customers, or the ones that tell you that you did something that you didn't do, or vice versa. But it was an incredible wealth of knowledge that I acquired in that time for sure.
the revenue. All the revenue stayed with you. You didn't have to pay somebody out. So that helped you, once you were ready, probably get more systems in place, and whether it be a booking software or whatnot, that all went to you instead of, paying somebody
Yeah,
out.
yeah, for sure. I mean, also you're limited to 2 houses a day, right? Like,
Sure.
because you can't do very much more. So your growth rate, like, looking back, I remember turning off leads. Like, now I can't get leads, right? Like, it's impossible to get leads now. It's super difficult, even with all of the tools that are being thrown at us as options as business owners. You have this and that and AI and Facebook and Google and all these different possibilities, but like things that actually generate true leads, it's very challenging to get good quality leads because you have a huge amount of competition and the leads are getting expensive. And it doesn't even make sense to pay that much money for a lead because at the end of the day, you're almost paying to do the cleaning versus actually not. But I remember it was like, oh my gosh, I got to turn off my Google ads because I can't do any more homes. Like, I don't have providers to do them. Like, I can't call because that's my reputation, and reputation is everything, right? Like, every one of those 5-star reviews, like it's like a little badge of honor. It's like, I did it. Yes, it's there. And then Google changes something and like 40 reviews are gone and you're like the sickle. Like, what's happening? Like, excuse me, I had 129 reviews and now it's like 12. Like, where did they go? And they're like, oh, send me the screenshots of what's missing. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? How would I even know that? Like, I just know like I had a lot and now I don't have a lot, right? Like, I don't have time to take a screenshot of every Google review that I've ever gotten. Like, who does? Like, sometimes I'm just like, no, this is not okay. But yeah, you put it back. If you don't have to pay it out, you put it back to the business and you invest in systems, right? Like Booking Koala is a system that we invested. Luckily, I was lucky enough to start with systems first, right? A lot of business owners, they start sort of like on a napkin, I call it, right? Just saying like, okay, I'm just going to use my calendar and just do it manually. And then they grow and then they find a scheduling system that works for them. For me, being that I came from software and systems and corporate, I set it up correctly first. And really, the only reason I clean homes because I couldn't hire. Nobody wanted to work. So it was like a necessity versus a choice. I probably would have gone with the teams if I had teams to begin with, but I didn't have the luxury. So I had to do it. But the systems were already in place for scaling and for growth. So the minute I could hire and retain talent, then it would be off to, we would be off running and sort of rapidly growing. But yeah, that sort of answer your question.
Yeah, absolutely. So you started 2020. What do you remember what month?
I do. So August 4th was our first cleaning.
What amount did you invest to get started? Do you remember?
Not very much. I think maybe it was like under $1,000, $500. It was not a lot of money. I mean, I bought a whole bunch of supplies. I built my own website, so for somebody else, it would be costly, a little bit more costly to get somebody to build them a website. I actually started off with not with Book and Koala, but with Launch 27, but really quickly realized that was not the right fit and was part of like at the beginning of Book and Koala, where you had like this massive exodus from Launch 27 into Book and Koala. I was part of that, and started with you guys like really, really at the beginning. So as I was growing, you were growing. So it's interesting to see that progression as well. But yeah, so I remember, so I actually had started with a different model of hiring that I did than what I ended up with. So when I first started, I started with like W-2 employees. So I hired I bought all of the supplies, the vacuum cleaners, whatever I needed. So yeah, I would say, yeah, I can't imagine it wasn't a lot of money looking back at it. It was a long time ago, but I can't imagine it was a lot of money. But you can also have like, if you don't need 6 vacuums, you could start with 2, right? You could start with, 2 mops and sort of build as you go. If resources are really an issue, it's definitely one of the less capital intensive businesses to start, right? Some other things, like even like landscaping company, the tools are much more expensive, and you need trucks because how else are you going to transport all that stuff, right? You can't just like throw it in the back of your, tiny little car. You need a bigger car. But for cleaning, you could start fairly inexpensively, I would say.
And right now, it seems like there's a boom in service businesses getting started and all the competition going on in all across the country and, even in different countries as well. How are you staying ahead and different from your competitors in the area?
Yeah, it's a great question. I actually think it's very competitive, right? Like I feel like cleaning companies are popping up like mushrooms. Like you turn around and there's like 3 more, and all of a sudden they use the same name as you, and you're like, oh my gosh, I spent like 5 years building out my brand, and you just turn around and you're gonna capitalize on that. Not nice. And in the same neighborhood, also not nice, right? Like so you constantly like have to watch your back. Having said that, and we talked about leads, like, right? Like leads are much more difficult to get, and customers seem to want to pay less because everything with inflation, everything's more expensive, right? So the last few years have been challenging, and you actually don't realize how expensive things gotten until you leave US and you go somewhere else and you realize like, oh my gosh, I'm in Paris in an airport and I just paid $12 for a salmon sandwich. And then I'm in JFK and I paid $22 for a bagel with nothing on it. Right. So I'm like, I mean, it's the same bread. Like, how was it that much more money? Right. And so you come to that realization when you leave, but when you're in it, you just know that that's what they are. Right. Hi, Maya. That's my assistant. Do you see her?
Yes, so cute.
She's so cute. So when Google charges you like $78 for a lead, like Google Local Services, then I say, I'm sorry, I don't have those kinds of margins. Like I don't have it. So, and they're saying, well, if you convert this one customer to a recurring, yeah, but what percentage of time do you actually convert your customers, right? Is it 50%? Is it 60%? Is it 12%? Like, I mean, each business owner knows what their numbers are. But for us, I was like, yeah, this is just not going to work. So for me, it's if everyone is going to that avenue. What else can we deliver, or how else can we differentiate ourselves? Even though at the end of the day, we all clean. It's not like I've learned how to cure cancer and somehow magically people will come and line up for my clinic, right? Like, you will either be reliable or you won't. You'll do an excellent deep cleaning, or you'll do an average one and they'll never call you back. But at the end of the day, like, we clean homes. It's not that complicated, right? So you just have to constantly think. Like, I always think, like, what else, how can we do things differently? And meeting with other business owners and seeing, like, hey, what do you offer? Like, what works for you? And sharing. Because while it is, in a sense, there's a lot of competition, I believe in win-win, and I believe there is enough business for people. I believe in that whole abundance mentality of, like, yeah, honestly, don't come in my backyard and, like, do that. That's maybe not cool
Right.
entirely. But at the end of the day, like, there's thousands of homes, right? Many of them have house cleaners. Many of those house cleaners are not reliable and suck. At some point, these people will switch. They might pick you, they might not. Like, really, it's okay.
It's not the end of the world.
Right, it's okay. Like, it's okay. I actually had interviewed somebody a couple of years back, not gonna name names, and it was clear as the day this girl's just trying to get, like, information out of me to, like, start her company. Honestly, Michael, all she had to do was be like, "Hey, could you share it with me?" I would have given her 10 times more information. I realized that when the first 4 minutes what she was doing, and I entertained it for her, but all she had to be like, "I really wanna start my own cleaning company. Can I pick your brain?" And I would have been like, "No problem. What do you want to know?" Like, you didn't need to, like, secretly figure out what Booking Koala was. I would have told you. I would have sent you a link so you could sign up. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't, or how to, like, what insurance my providers use, or how to do something else. Like, I would have just given it to you. So for me, I believe in bringing people up, right? Like, if you are on my team, I tell them, I want you to do better than when I found you, right? Like, I want you to have a more financially secure future, to be able to pick up your kids at 2 o'clock if you need to go to that dance recital, to do fun things like going hiking on the weekends, if that's your jam, right? Like, I don't look at people that we work with as them working for me, right? Like, we are building something together. I do my part, you do your part. Together, it comes out to a beautiful product. And I think that's one of the reasons we're super successful at CR Maids is our people 100%. Like, from the first conversation you have with a booking coordinator to the provider that shows up at the home and does an amazing job making sure that, the paw marks are gone on the glass, even though glass is separate. Church will just wipe it off just because it's dirty, right? Like, that's my mentality. It's like, if it's dirty, just clean it. We'll figure it out, right? And the next one is, we don't deal with shitty customers. There is such thing as asshole customers, sorry, but we just don't deal with them. Like, if people trying to take advantage, we don't deal with them. If people are disrespectful, we don't deal with them. We don't want their money. They can go somewhere else. It's okay.
And
Yeah.
you knowing that is huge. That's one big thing with new business owners getting started. It's like, give me every single customer, I'll take care of them all. You don't want that
I was
because
like that. I was that person starting out because you didn't know any better.
exactly.
My first cleaning, I cleaned their ducts, the vent things. Like, on a regular cleaning, I was on my hands and knees wiping every single baseboard. I didn't charge them anything extra. I did the window. I didn't know if a move in, move out, an apartment included windows or not. I had no idea. I learned that, wow, that's like a $600 upcharge. I just charged them like $300 for this cleaning. I totally undersold myself. Probably shouldn't have done that, but you learn next time until you little by little. And then there's customers where you raise your rates by like $5, and they're like, "I'm leaving.
Okay, goodbye.
Thank you. We wish
Yeah.
you well," right? Or somebody, we're talking about leads, right? I had a Google local service lead. The guy's budget was $75. I'm like, you cost me 80. Like, literally, I just paid $80 to Google for this phone call. Right? It's not funny. It's funny, but not funny, right? And I'm like, it is cost of business. And I'm like, I mean, you can get in your car and drive to Target and take $75 and buy supplies and clean the house. Like, that is an option, but there isn't anyone in their right mind who's going to go clean your house for that amount of money unless they're illegal, uninsured, have a criminal record, and desperate. And you do not want any of those people in your home, right?
Or a teenager in the neighborhood.
Teenager in a neighborhood that will like not actually clean. They will not clean. At the beginning of our conversation, I told you I thought I knew how to clean, but I'm sort of meticulous to if I'm doing something, I want to do it right. So I sat and I watched videos for hours before even I had my first clean. Like, and I was like, ah, that's how they do that. I get it now. Like that makes sense, right? I was like, that's not because at home you're like, oh my gosh, the baby's crying. I'm gonna go do that. And then where was I? I don't know. Did I clean the kitchen? I think I cleaned the kitchen. Let me go do the bathrooms, right? So you're like all over the place. There's nothing, there's no process to it. And you end up doing it for 6 hours. But in the client's home, you don't have that luxury. It's either you're gonna go broke if you'll do that, or no one will ever call you back.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's the learning curve when you think you know something is funny because sometimes it could be super steep or sometimes it could be super flat and smooth and you're like, okay, I did know all this. But you had the foresight to know like, hey, I'm still gonna learn and still know that like I could always do something better and not just be like, nope, this is how I do it. I don't care. If you don't like it, go somewhere else to an extent, that's how it is with the customers who are, not the greatest to deal with. This is how we do it. But if you have a customer that's, nice and friendly and flexible and like, hey, if you could do it this way, sure, you're more open to
Feedback,
doing
no,
it.
we love feedback. Feedback is a gift. I believe that feedback is a gift. I think there's a big difference between you giving me feedback so I could serve you better
Uh-huh.
versus you're just having a power trip because you think you're better than me, right?
Manipulative feedback.
Like we're all human. We're all created equal in front of God, right? Like you're human, I'm human, we're going to die the same way, right? Like in the big scheme of things. And I'm here to make your life easier, right? That's my goal here is like you pay me for a service, I'm here to deliver that service. But when you are going to stand there and watch me clean, you might as well do it yourself, right? Like right? It's one thing. It's like, hey, I'm in the room then doing my own thing and you're cleaning. That's fine. But we had customers literally like on our back. Like I take a step, you take a step. It's very hard to clean that way, because you constantly feel like tippy toes, tippy toes. I don't see your tippy toes. Like that's the whole shebang, right? And you're like, like, hey, like, do you not have anything better to do than like you have 500 cameras. I'm not stealing anything.
Yeah.
I had customers that would leave a wad of hundreds in the closet just to see what I would do with them. And I'm like, I don't need your hundreds. Please don't do that next time because there are other people who might need it. And that's a lot of hundreds right there, right? Like, no matter how ethical you are, like, why tempt people? I don't believe in that. It's kind of like, ooh, do you want chocolate? You want to diet? You want chocolate? You want chocolate? How about now? How about now? It's just not cool. Like, put the chocolate away. Like, it's okay. There are people who said that we've damaged stuff that we did not. Luckily, we learned in our process how to deal with that as well. But that comes with experience. You can't learn that from somebody else. Somebody could be like, hey, Michael, just watch out for the red flags. They're saying like, my last cleaning lady, didn't do such great job, blah, blah, blah. Really? Why not? What exactly did she do? Right? So
Right.
you gotta ask the questions because I'm like, yep, red flag, or my house is really clean. This is best for her. Red flag. Why are you calling me that?
You must be the best cleaning person ever. Why are you calling a cleaning service?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll hire you.
Sure. You want a job?
You want a job? Or like, I don't even make that kind of money and be like,
Okay.
we're hiring. Like
Yeah.
that's my response, right? Like our providers make really good money. We treat our people really well. Come on over. Like if you think you're an amazing cleaner, then we'll hire you. No worries. I'm always hiring people. But yeah, there's all kinds of situations which I'm super grateful for because without them, I would not have and appreciate all of the wonderful customers that I have.
On the topic of hiring, earlier you mentioned that you had employees. I'm assuming you switched to
We
contractors.
did pretty quickly.
Okay.
Probably within the first this one makes noise. We can't play right now, okay? No, it's not. That's not gonna she's like, "Yeah, you can't play, but I could play." So, yeah, we switched pretty quickly. I know So I'm friends with a lot of different business owners, both here in Colorado and out of state. And then this is a constant like, which is right, 1099, W2. And my thought is it depend actually think it really depends on your personality, what works best. I don't think it's one way or the other because I've tried both. And for my personality, the better way is 1099. So we kind of switched right away. What I came up with is I felt like there was a lot of babysitting for me for W2s. I was like, I need more pray. Can you bring, like, that's all I did all day. I was like, bring shit to people. Like, I'd have to go and check their work, make sure they came on time, make sure they actually, like, they are actually there. I mean, I think I still have PTSD about like, will people actually show up? Right. Like, and I worked through a lot of that. So I think within the first year we switched to tins. And then I realized that I would rather make less money and get really, really great people than try to kind of save a little in the process and keep a little bit more, but have to do all that managing situation. So for me, like, I think that just the personality, it was the right personality fit. And then once I made that decision, it wasn't going back because I knew that for tax purposes, like you should not be doing back forth, because if you ever get audited, you'll be in big troubles. For us, like we're very, very specific about following the rules to the T for tax. We don't do anything we're not supposed to do for them to even seem like they could be considered as W2s. Yeah, it's interesting.
I like the way you put that. That's the first time I've heard it, which the question comes up in the Facebook group all the time. I'm just starting out. Should I go W-2 1099 contract? Personality is the perfect way to figure out. Because if you're a very type A personality where you want to be hands on and you want to dictate everything, contractors is not probably going to be for you in a sense of uniforms. You want people to look the certain way. You want them to clean a certain way, the way you do it, right? If you're
Yeah, I think you could still be a type A hardcore personality and still have contractors, right? So what I mean by that, so you're the constant, right? Like if you're the business owner, you're the constant. You could fire all the people and rehire them, but at the end of the day, you will still be there, right? So if you get irritated if you don't know every single detail, then you probably want to have W2s, right? But if you feel like you could give direction and say, hey, I need you to come at 8 o'clock, which is when the cleaning is, and I need you to perform a deep clean. I'm not going to tell you how to perform the deep clean, but the expectation is these certain things are cleaned. You could figure out how you get there, what chemicals you use, what process you use, as long as the things are actually to the standard of what we consider a deep clean. And then you allow the person the space to do it the way they find best to do it, right? So you could still be the type A personality and have very little control over the actual process of the cleaning. Or you could be like, you know what? I want you to show up in the office. I want to see that you're sober. I want to see that you're dressed properly and presentable. I want to know that what you have in your caddy. I want you to follow this specific checklist, right? And then I want at the end of the day at 5 o'clock, I want you to come over and refill your stuff and then, do the same thing the next day. So you could have an type A personality too, but I think within you, like what, like also where do you want to take your business, right? Like, do you want to be super local? Do you want to have multiple locations? What are your goals for growing your business, right? I actually, a lot of times when independent contractors are thinking about starting their own, I challenge them to think about that, right? Do you want to answer the phone and pause the vacuum cleaner and at night be chasing people for the payments and doing your bookkeeping and making sure that all of the paperwork is filed? Yes, of course, there's services that could help you with all of that. You could have a CRM and a VA and Gusto for, payroll or whatever systems you could get help, but do you want that? Or do you want to work for somebody like and just be paid, 9 to 5, certain amount of time, clock in, clock out, exactly what you make per hour. There is no ambiguity. Or would you rather have the flexibility and partner with somebody and, pick your jobs, right? Like, I want to do this one, but not this one. I want to know that on Wednesday next week, I'm busy, right? But, I can come in on this Saturday because my Saturday is free and you have a job for me, right? Like it just, again, all depends on the personality. I think it's both for providers, for employees, and for you as a business owner to sit down and actually look at like, what do I want out of this?
Absolutely. And how many providers do you have currently?
So we have 20 teams currently.
20
And
teams of 2, 40, or
no, we
is
have
it mix?
teams that are very mixed. We have individual contributors. We have teams that are 2. They have teams that are 4. It's all over the map, and it changes actually frequently, right? So while most of our providers stay with us, they don't leave. I did notice things cycle, right? Like people burn out. They want to take time. People get sick, people have different life events, people's cars break down, and things just happen constantly, right? So sometimes we'll have more, sometimes we'll have less people working with us, and it depends, but it's always fluid for sure.
Always hiring, or do you only hire when you need?
I'm always hiring.
You're always hiring.
Yeah, I'm hiring even when I have no work for the people that I have. It makes me hustle and find work.
That's huge because it's always the give or take. Do you have enough providers to cover the leads, or do you have too many leads?
World
Not
oldest
enough
problem for the
providers.
service providing like business, right? It's like if I don't give them enough work, they will quit. Well, they won't quit. They'll just won't. When you call them, they won't show up, right? But if I don't have enough people, then I can't cover the customers. Then they won't call you back. So it's like we're always hiring, always, because inevitably something will happen. Somebody's kid will get sick. Somebody's car will break down. Somebody will get hurt. Like I don't wish it. It's just the reality.
Life.
Right.
It's
It's just
life
like
happens.
adulting. That just things happen. And I have friends and providers who literally they're like magnet for things. They'll just hit their head on the washing machine or like I'm like, how? I don't know how do you do it? Like how you need a bubble, like literally a bubble.
My
Because
wife says that about me. I'm always running into things. I'm always kicking my toe and I need my own bubble. That's what she says.
yeah, you need a bubble, right? And you're like, how are you still alive at this age with so many injuries? Like I just don't even understand. But
A lot of luck.
yes, God is looking after, there you have an angel on your shoulder that's protecting you clearly. Yeah, that's I would say that any new business starting out probably I mean it's two part, right? Customers and providers, right? Like something to clean and someone to do it. Right. So these two things, it's just a yin and yang. You need them both constantly all the time. And we focus on hiring all the time.
So you're going into your fifth full year, right? Because you started mid 2020.
Is it fifth or sixth? We're in 2026.
20, yeah. So yeah.
It'll
So you're
be like
six.
in August, it'll be 6 years. So whatever that is. It's
So
five and
your
a
fifth full year coming in. But do you know what you've done since day one in total revenue?
No, actually, I have no idea. To be totally transparent, I look at things on a month to month basis and on year to year basis. So I have no idea.
What did you do last year? Now that we're in the beginning of 26,
So we just broke 600 last year. And
congratulations.
that was a huge milestone for us. Yeah, I don't particularly love harping on the money aspect because it is what it is. If it was up to me, we probably would have done a lot more. But then, it's interesting because we started out with a conversation about my kiddo, right? And I think as I am growing in this business, my life priorities have shifted drastically, and what I consider success has shifted drastically. If when I was in my 20s, like running a multi-billion-dollar company would have been what I considered a success, or taking a company public would be like, that's when I think I did well, then the freedom to have money and the time with my family is what I consider success today. So if you ask me, hey, Karina, you could double your revenue, but you have to work double the amount of time that you currently do and miss out on all of which, I mean, we only have 24 hours in the day. I already don't sleep as it is, right? Like I spend most of the day with my kiddo and I spend most of the night working. So I don't sleep very much to begin with. But if you said, like, you have to put in that much more energy because you have to put in energy in order to take things out. It doesn't just magically grow and happen on its own. Just maintaining the growth, like keeping it, right? Like, we fluctuate quite a lot. Some month we'll do, you start at the beginning of a month and you're like, how did we get down to this number? Like, how did this happen? Like, what happened to my reoccurring bookings? Like, I thought we've crossed that benchmark, but no, somehow we go back still, we gotta keep rebuilding it. So there's a lot of this happening. But if you ask me, like, would you like go banging door to door or find other ways, but take that time and energy away from something else? I would say probably not, because I value my freedom and my time with my family. I can't get that back. Like, my kid will only be 11 once, right? But I can always make more money, whether it's this year, next year, 10 years from now, whether it's a cleaning company or a dog grooming company or car washing company, or you fill in the blank. It doesn't matter what it is. I can always make more money, but I cannot get the time with my family back. And for me, that is this definition of the success, is being able to spend the time how I want it, when I want it, right? And have the means to do it. So it's that careful balance of two. So you learn to realize that, it's okay that we didn't grow as much as I would have wanted at the beginning of, or, like I guess towards the end of 5 years or halfway through the 5 years. I'm proud where we got, and we'll take it from here.
The biggest thing that I've learned through the years of doing these interviews is that nobody regretted starting this business. And they knew that it wasn't going to make them a 10 million dollar net worth, but it's giving them the freedom to do whatever they want, whether it's a college student starting this in their dorm room to have an income to get them through school, or it's somebody else who has a 9 to 5 who wants to walk away from the 9 to 5 into something else, or it's somebody who's just fed up and wants to be a business owner.
Yeah, I met another business owner a few months ago, and he has a 9 to 5 and doesn't do it. Like, he's like, I'm okay with making this much money, whatever that was for him. It wasn't insignificant, right? Because I have I'm gonna call it a real job. I make fun. I say, like, I don't have a real job. My husband has a real job because he has to show up to the office and I don't. Right. And I love what I do. So it doesn't even feel like a job, but that's beyond the point. He's like, I don't get involved. Like, I set it all up. I deal with, if I lose revenue, I'm okay with that because it's my side gig. Right. And then you have somebody like me, that this is my baby. Like, I live and breathe it. I know exactly what's happening every single day. I have my hand on the pulse, right? Like, I might not even see, like, I might not even be seen, but my team might not even see that I know what's happening, but I know what's happening. Like, I know what we do. I know what's happening, like, in terms of, are we losing money? Are we growing? Do we have any issues? Is there any opportunities? Like, for the most part, I'm pretty well aware of what's happening in today to day in their business, right? But there's many ways to run this business. It just depends on your personality and your goals, right? Your individual goals. You could be a college student and outsource a lot of stuff, right? You could do things on your own. You could be really hands on, manage every tiny detail. You cannot. It just depends. And different people have different strength and skill sets. Even on the community, you could see, like, sometimes people talk about the different tech stacks, and I'm like fairly tech savvy, and I'm like, that's an overkill. You don't need all that. Like, honestly, it's, if that's your jam and you think it makes a difference for you to know every single number for every single thing, God bless you, right? But it's not necessary, right? You don't need to know. At the end of the day, you could know most of your KPIs, or like the major KPIs, and figure out, okay, yeah, we're making money, we're not making money. Why provide my customers are happy, they're not happy. Like, it doesn't need to be that nitty-gritty. It doesn't have to be overcomplicated. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. But again, my personality is more like that. But for somebody who's like super meticulous about every little thing, for them it's more analytics and about reporting and about, you know, zapping everything between everything to everything. And you're like, really? I mean, like, do you really need to do all that? Like, do you need that many connections for real? And they might, but I
Yeah.
don't. That's not necessarily for me. I figure, like, I like the whole minimum viable product. Like, what is the least amount to get us there, right? And then the rest of the 20% we'll figure out what to do with it, right? So, but Yeah.
And that just goes back to what I was saying. It could be run in so many different ways. You could put in the least amount of work and have it fully automated with all the zaps, like you said, and be 1 hour a week in it and not know much. Or you can do everything manually and know what customer gives you what, who's super happy where. And there's no right or wrong way, is what I'm getting at.
Totally. I feel very lucky that I got to, like, 2 things, meet the people who guided me, and they gave me their experience. Like, some of the people I've met at the beginning, they use the W-2 model, right? Like, that's their model. They sleep well at night. Like, that's good for them. It was not for me, right? Like, they shared their experience with it, and then I tweaked it to what mattered to me. I feel very fortunate that I I got to use Booking Koala, right? Because for me, a lot of the things were there that I didn't have to think about. Now, would I do it differently? Could I improve it? Maybe, yes. There's always room for changing things around. But the fact that you have like a pretty good shell with a whole lot of scenarios to be able to pick and choose as somebody who's new in the industry and is still figuring out, it's super helpful to being like, oh, yeah, you could set it up this way using square feet or hourly or having extras or doing some other way. Like there's a bazillion things that you could do not to have to think about it. And people could say, yeah, it's overcomplicated. Well, everything is complicated that works. I mean, it is. It's talking to all these different pieces and connecting it all together like a huge, ginormous spider web. It's going to be complicated. Like, and sometimes things are not going to work accurately. And that's the case, right? Like it just happens in many software companies. And again, but because that's my background, I understand that to be the case. And starting with the software system that could support the growth and the scalability for me was always to scale. It was not like I wasn't interested in having a small little side gig, right? Like I was interested in building out a company and having it. This is it. Like this is what I do. And I think having the right systems and the right people in places is like super critically important to see whether or not a startup will succeed or not. What did they say? Like 90% of startups fail, right?
Yeah.
Mostly it's because they don't have the right systems, right? They don't have the right systems in place. They don't understand the market. But I think there's already so many different unknowns in any business that you're starting, service related business, cleaning business, whatever, that if anything we can eliminate that just works, just get it to work and then don't think about it, right? Like, so yeah.
With the topic of systems and softwares going into Booking Koala now, how big a role does technology play in your day to day?
It's huge. So we used to rely 100% on technology. Recently, we've actually put a whole bunch of systems in place that protects us in case technology fails us. Right. So if we ever have, I'm going to call it a blackout. If anyone lived in New York in the 2000s, the 3-day blackout where people couldn't get in and out of Manhattan and it's terrible and nobody could get anything. But like sometimes systems have massive failures. If like today you're like, okay, you have no access to any of your systems, I'd be like, I don't even know where to send my providers, right? But like we
So essentially, what happened with Booking Koala in March of last year, of
yeah, was a
2025?
huge, huge, huge issue for us because we didn't even know where they would go. Honestly, it was like, I don't know. I don't have the addresses. I have no idea what your schedule is. I don't know any of it. Like it was hard. So we put together SOPs. And actually what made us realize it's not just Booking Koala. It could have been anything else. It could be Go High Level, which is what we use for our CRM. It could be our phone system. It could be anything else. We just didn't have any backup plan, right? So we created one. We created SOPs to say, while we're still 100% reliant on technology, and I think it's a good thing, it's the right thing to do. You should have SOPs that protect you in case technology fails, right? Like So you know where to send your providers or how much to charge them, or another way of even charging a customer other than through your scheduling system, right? Like, having ability to go straight into Square, Stripe, or whoever uses your payment method to take a credit card or some ways. But I think it was a huge learning opportunity for us to say, okay, this could have really damaged us, but we had other things in place which kind of helped us to fall and then get up pretty quickly, right? Like because of the learnings that we've done throughout, we were able to mitigate some of that better, and I think than some of other colleagues that I had in the industry. This that was a very long way of answering about systems, but yes, we use a lot of systems.
I'm glad you brought it up because it helped us grow. It was a terrible time for us, for you guys, and I would never wish it on anybody. I don't see it as a failure. I see it as a learning opportunity. And for us at that time, we learned so much and we were able to go from that experience and make it through. Thank God, because some other softwares or people who run them might have not, right?
Yeah.
We were fortunate enough to make it through and we did the best we could and we were able to see what went wrong and how to fix it and how to implement things in the software to give you guys more redundancies, right? Like a Google Calendar sync. So now you guys can connect Google Calendar and God forbid it ever happened again, your bookings can be in booking and go from booking quality into your Google Calendar.
I actually didn't even know that that was the case, but thank you for letting me know. I think we still like screenshot stuff on a daily basis just to make sure that, you wake up the next morning and stuff's still there.
Sure.
I think also you don't know when book and koala grew pretty quickly, right? Like, so when you grow really quickly, you don't realize sometimes you're in it and you don't even realize that you're growing quickly. And now you need completely different processes and procedures and you learned. Hopefully you fixed it mostly we learned because for me, I take accountability for me. I could say, okay, I could stay here. I could go look elsewhere. It's my prerogative, right? Or I could say, okay, like, what works, what doesn't, can this be fixed, can it be, can I bring something else to get me what I need? But what I noticed in the last 5 years that working with you guys is that you try to constantly make things better. Like at the end of the day, you try to make it better. The intent is there to improve the system, to get more functionality, and you could see it because you're like, oh, wow, I know there's certain times as I'm learning with customers and coming into these like scenarios, other people are too, right? And you're like, you wouldn't even know that you need specific module if you didn't have 200 cleaning owners being like, hey, it'd be really helpful if we can add pictures to this or videos of how to make the bed in an Airbnb so that they have like things to refer to in each customer. I don't know how that would work, but you guys go figure it out. Like some sort of repository situation where you know that this customer wants these things and you don't have to constantly like tell them on the phone, like, hey, make the bed this way or whatever. But that's how you learn is just trial and error and hopefully not fatal errors, right?
And you only fail when you stop, when you give up.
Exactly.
As
Exactly.
long as you keep going, you're not failing. So you've been with us 5+ years. You've been through highs and lows with us. What drew you in the beginning to using us? You mentioned the mass exodus from a different software.
Yeah.
Was it
So
just because everyone else was doing it?
no, it was multiple of things. And again, to be completely fair, I was only with the other company for a few months before I switched over, so it was fairly quick, but I felt like they were about to implement their own payment processing system and they made it sound like it was like the coolest thing ever, but for me I felt like there was like way too many pieces of a puzzle in one company. While it sounded really cool, and potentially saving whatever 3% or 3.5%, whatever Stripe charges. It was just not enough visibility for me, like into financials. So I wanted that stuff kind of separated. And two, what I really what really drew me is the functionality because I didn't want to, every time I need something, I need to buy another level of service. That was like a really big one. I wanted the clock in, clock out feature was important to me because I wanted to know where people were, even though I was the people. But eventually, right? Remember, I was building for scale. I wasn't just building for me. So that was important to me. I couldn't tell you what else at the point because I just remember there was a whole lot of, if I wanted all of the functionality, the monthly premium was like super high. Um, versus in Booking Koala, it wasn't at all when I first started. And I didn't have any providers, so that wasn't an issue. I also was like super affordable to get started. And I set up the majority of Booking Koala on my own. Like it wasn't, I had help from some people, but it wasn't like completely wow. Like I couldn't figure it out. It was definitely not complicated, but it was, you could follow along some ways with the help of support. So I did that while the other one, I did not set it up at all. It was completely lost there. So those are, I think, like the main ones, main reasons why we moved over.
What's one of your favorite features?
It's a good question. There's so many. I really love the signature and the pictures part, like that you can add the signature and the pictures to each cleaning. I know it's super simple, but it helps us with just that.
Chargebacks?
Yeah, I feel like chargebacks are so tricky because you could have all of the documentation in the world and you could still
They'll still
lose.
be denied.
Yeah, I'm actually like on the flip side right now where I'm trying to charge somebody back who did like $20,000 of damage to my home and yeah, did things that are not up to code. Like I had a plumbing problem, literally like did all kinds of messed up stuff and I'm still lost the dispute. Like how I don't understand how it's even like I have pictures and documentation and invoice everything and still lost. So like sometimes I'm like I don't understand like how do we lose our cleaning disputes when we have pictures and documentations and all our ducks in a row but somehow we still lose. Honestly, I just think it's like the dispute universe, like some you win some you lose some, it's just it is what it is. But it does help a lot with structure. And I think for us, like we structure our team members, you have to do it. You need to take before and after pictures. And then like once they get into the routine of that, they kind of know. So I love that. I love that they could sign because I have customers, they'd be like, oh, I'm not happy with the cleaning. You'd be like, dude, but you did a walkthrough and you signed. Like you had an opportunity to say, I'm not happy. Please change this. And we'll still come back and change it. I'm not saying we won't, but like, wouldn't it be just easier to be like, hey, I don't like how you mopped my floor versus waiting 24 hours now that everybody walked on that floor and made crumbs and dirty shoes and a dog hair. And now I have to go back and put in 10 times more effort in recleaning it than just mopping it one more time. Like, wouldn't this be easier? But yeah, I love that feature. I love that you could see all of the different providers on the calendar in different colors. I think it's kind of cool because really quickly you could see which team does a lot of cleanings. So for us, that one is my other favorite, I would say.
Flip side, what's something that you would like?
There's a lot of consistencies. I find there's still a lot of inconsistency in reporting, particularly around financials. There's sometimes minor, sometimes major, and it's still a big issue for you guys to like, for example, like every week we run payroll, we have to manually check every single job, right? Like what's coming out on the report versus what's in the actual booking. And there's always discrepancies. Had we just left it and let it run, we'd probably losing a lot of money overall or overpaying to our providers. I don't know what's causing it, but our payroll, like every single week, we have to go through every single one, which takes a lot of time double checking. And the bigger one, honestly, it's not necessarily a system related, but more service related for you guys is not getting stupid answers back. If I were to send a request and then 2 days goes by and I'll get like a response with something completely not related, that's infuriating to me, right? It's like,
Understandable.
I'll give you 2 days if you need to take 2 days to respond. I mean, shouldn't take that long, but if you need it, fine. But if your response 2 days later would be like, can you send me another screenshot? Of what? What are you missing? Is it a specific date? Is it an angle? Is it what don't you have to help me? Don't or like we received your request and right? Like that would be
Yeah,
that would be an example of that. That's probably your biggest opportunity right there because I think the software you have I have a long list of things that we could go through, but at the end of the day, you guys are already doing awesome trying to add new functionality at whichever priority list that you have internally. That's not for me to decide. It's not my company. For me, my priority is different than perhaps for some things for you. But that's an easy thing that you could certainly look into. Um, and fix. And I would say hand in hand with that, just a realization that like we rely on Book and Koala 100%, right? It's a huge responsibility. So just taking that responsibility in everything that you do, as opposed to like, meh, like, yeah, it sucks. Yeah, it's down or it doesn't work. Yeah, it's not just down for us. It's like, this is our lifeline. That's how we
yeah,
live. It's very a huge responsibility. So like with that, that's the privilege, right? Is having that is you guys did such an awesome system that now you have that responsibility that comes with that privilege.
definitely. And we're always looking, obviously, to improve, not just in adding features or streamlining things, but in other areas, like you said, the customer support, which since last March, when the whole outage happened, that was one of the biggest priorities. And to this day, it's not something that we're going to be like, okay, we got better at it. We're just going to leave it be. It's something that we're always, or as long as we own the company, it will always be, let's make it better. What do we need to do
Yeah,
to make
I
support better?
teach my team members, like, because we have customers too, right? Like, and while our customers don't like cleaning their house, it's not their lifeline. You could suck or it could be a great experience. I say, hey, when our provider sends our coordinators a request, don't send them bullshit requests, like responses, like if they're like, hey, the customer is not answering their door and it's like 30 degrees outside, right? Like, don't just be like, send them like one of those, like cover remarks like, I got it, or like, I'm on it. Like, what does that mean? Like, do you want me to leave? Should I go in my car? Should I wait for 15 minutes? Are you calling them and can't get in touch? Like, I need feedback, or like, I don't know what to do. Someone's screaming at me, right? Like, you gotta give me feedback, right? So I teach my people, like, what if it was you out there in 30 degrees and, and you're calling your booking coordinator and they're not responding. And just because you don't have an answer, you still have to, it's your job to like reel them in, whatever, solve that issue and be like, hey, go in your car, turn on your heat, let me see, give me 15 minutes to like see if I can get them on the phone. I tried multiple times. They're not getting back to me, right? Now you know what I'm doing. I've just communicated to you like, hey, I'm working on this, right? So it's really just mostly about like, hey, I'm working on this or I'm not working on this. I have no idea what you're asking me. I think you're crazy.
Really makes sense. Final question. If you could go back in time, I guess your daughter's kind of the same age, but if you could go back in time and tell your 10-year-old self, based on your own experiences through life, what would you tell her? Or in this instance, I guess, what would you tell your daughter? Because she's right about that age.
That's a great question. I would tell myself to trust my gut and not to try to mold myself to something that didn't feel natural. And don't be afraid to fail. You're going to fall a bazillion times on your face and it's going to be ugly and you're going to cry ugly and you're going to get up and you're going to learn from it and you're going to get stronger. Because at the end of the day, if you can't win if you don't try, if you don't play, you can't, it's impossible, right? And living a life of regret is no way to live, right? I've sometimes I meet people and they're like, "Wow, I've never left my small town." And I'm like, my question is, why not? Well, I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? What's the worst thing that can happen? You can always get in the car and come back. You could try the next town over and then maybe the next state over and then maybe you can go to Canada or Mexico. It's not that far, right? Like some people could take big steps, some people could take little steps, but just trust yourself because I think intuition is our biggest form of intelligence a human can have. And listening to your intuition of whatever, like, hey, something doesn't feel right, to, yeah, I'm going to try and see what happens. I'm just going to do it. And then you never know, you might surprise yourself positively and say, wow, I just changed my life completely. And I'm able to live the way I want to live my life, not the way my parents did or their parents did, or the society think I should or shouldn't be. Just this is how I am. We only get one time. We're not cats. We don't come back. Just this is it. Like you live it how you want it. And then at the end of the day, when it's your final day, you can look back and say, yeah, that was an awesome ride. Right? Like I did what I wanted to do. I went where I wanted to do. I worked how I wanted to work. And or you could say I didn't. I was afraid. I didn't take a chance, you know. And I think both ways there's to me, there's a clear right and a wrong way, but to each person it's their own, right? It's what's important for that individual. So yeah.
Second part, are you happy? Not just today, but
No,
just
I'm very happy.
just in life.
I'm living a full life and I'm incredibly, incredibly fortunate and grateful and happy. I have an amazing, amazing family and I have great friends. And I don't know, I'm like perfectly content with, there's things I'm working towards that I want and desire. And then, I have good days and I have bad days, but overall, like I'm a really happy person. I'm really grateful that I have the opportunity to build, like, honestly, to build the life that I want to live. And people say, "Hey, Karina, what are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm living the life I want to live." Or, how come you spend all this time traveling?" I don't know, because it sounded cool and I wanted to do it. Why did you pick up drawing or furniture making? I don't know, because I can. Like, just learn
Yeah,
new thing because it sounded cool and I wanted to try, so I tried it and I liked it. Or, yeah, that was not for me. Like, I'm not doing that again. Just very happy. Yeah.
awesome. Well, Karina, thank you so much for taking the time today. Share your story, your business, your family, everything. It was a pleasure to get to know you and to have this opportunity with you.
Of course, thank you so much for having us. It was great. It was great sharing that as well. I appreciate it.
And to everyone watching, thank you for another wonderful episode. We'll see you next time.